we're listening to.
All right, you're looking at images from just moments ago as the president addressed the United Nations for the first time as sitting president. He talked about the UN being held back by bureaucracy, a ballooning budget that wasn't in line with accomplishments, but he said things are getting much better under the Secretary General, whom he sat next to, and talked about encourage member states to take a bold stance to, quote, change business as usual. Joining me now with reaction, CNN political commentator Paris Denard and Gabby Morangiello, White House correspondent for the Washington Examiner. So nice to have you both here. Gabby, to you first. The president didn't let the UN off the hook. I mean, he was critical of it, but this was a completely different tone, completely different word choice than he has used in the past to call the UN not a defender of freedom or democracy.
Right. I mean, it's a total 180 from the campaign rhetoric we heard from him back in 2016. But, you know, as he was sitting there next to the UN Secretary General Guterres, you can tell that they're allies on wanting UN reforms. The president has said that he intended to come to New York this week to really push for that and to show that the United States is going to be urging other countries to get on board. And I think that that was made clear not only in his brief remarks this morning, but will probably be reiterated time and time again throughout this week as he meets with various foreign leaders and continues to emphasize the need for some of these reforms that both he and Guterres think are necessary for this institution.
Paris, how did you see the president's remarks this morning, and what are you looking ahead for as he gets ready for that big main address to the UN tomorrow?
Yeah, you know, Poppy, one of the things I just looked at was the optics of it. I thought it was a powerful statement for a moment for our country to have the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, sit next to the UN Secretary General Guterres, as well as Ambassador Nikki Haley, whom I think is an all-star. I was with her at AEI a few weeks ago, listening to her talk about the growing and consistent threat that we face against North Korea. And then right behind him, Deputy National Security Advisor Dina Habib-Powell. I think those images, these strong, powerful women that are advising this president and leading this country on these international affairs. I thought the president's remarks were appropriate. I thought that he did a very good job at showing his sincere desire for reform. He was giving a similar message that he gave to the American people about what he wants to do to reduce the size of government and to have accountability for the U.S., and he was taking it right to the United Nations. And there's a key point that Ambassador Haley said. She says, it's going to be a new day for the United Nations, which is a playback to what she would say as governor. It's a great day in South Carolina. So you can see both of them taking their past experiences, one as a businessman, the other as a governor, and bringing that to the United Nations to promote peace and prosperity. And I think his speech tomorrow is going to be very direct. I think it's going to be very firm. I don't think it's going to have these arbitrary red lines that he cannot meet like we've seen in past administrations, but it's going to be a clear message. And we're going to hear the Trump doctrine on a global scale, and he always performs well. Trump doctrine is putting America first.
So here's the thing. I mean, Gabby, that's a hard line to walk, the America First rhetoric, the Trump budget, and the cuts that were proposed in a number of these aid programs, right, while increasing military spending that, of course, would be welcomed by some of these member nations, but you know, the cuts not welcomed by others. How does he walk that line to please his base and the promise of America First, while also addressing these global leaders on the world stage and saying you have a partner in the United States?
Well, look, I mean, I think if you hearken back to the speech that he gave, I think it was last June here in Washington, D.C., where he really first espoused that America First foreign policy. It's something that he's going to have to draw from in this speech to let Americans' allies know that, you know, our country is going to come first and that we are looking at reforming and making budget cuts here domestically, but that isn't going to impact necessarily those relationships and, you know, decades-long alliances that we have. And it is a fine line that he's going to have to walk, and it's certainly something that will be interesting to see, you know, how he does tackle that speech tomorrow. But I think Paris is right. He has to come out tomorrow and be very firm in calling for these reforms and making clear that as the President of the United States, protecting his own nation and making sure that Americans are, you know, getting the best bang for their buck in whatever sense of the term is his first priority, and that protecting other countries and working with other countries to improve various relationships is second to that. And that's something that the president has said all along since, the very first announcement of his presidential ambitions. And I think that it's something that we'll see in that speech tomorrow. I know it's something he's been working on, this speech, with his speechwriters. It's not something that's coming out of just the presidential speech writing. It's something he's been really involved in. So it'll be interesting to see the rhetoric tomorrow.
We will watch that speech. Is 24 hours, pretty much exactly from now, I believe about 10:30 Eastern Time. Tomorrow you'll see it right here, our special live coverage from the United Nations. Gabby, nice to have you. Paris, we appreciate it. Thank you.